There comes a moment in every chosen soul's life when they realize the struggles they've faced weren't random. The betrayals, the unexpected attacks, the feeling of being hunted rather than simply disliked. All of it points to something deeper than ordinary conflict. This is spiritual warfare, and if you're reading this, you've likely been in the center of it. Every few seconds, somewhere around the world, someone awakens to their true calling, and when they do, they become a target. Not because they've done something wrong, but because their inner light threatens systems built on darkness. You weren't just facing difficult people. You were disrupting spiritual hierarchies that have operated unchallenged for generations. Chapter 1. The light within you was the real target. The intense opposition and hatred you experienced were never truly about you as a person, nor were they rooted in petty grievances. What triggered such profound animosity was the inherent divine spark you carry, an unexplainable radiant presence that effortlessly shifts atmospheres the moment you enter a room. This is the inner strength, the unyielding clarity that remains stubbornly unbroken despite life's most crushing hardships. It is this intrinsic spiritual power that made you a perceived threat. People in your orbit sensed something about you they couldn't name, articulate, or replicate. Your very essence, your authentic self, acted as a spiritual beacon that inadvertently exposed what was false, disingenuous, or hidden around you. In environments where individuals thrive on deception and operate within a web of lies, the pure, unadulterated truth you embody becomes not just unwelcome, but genuinely dangerous. Your spirit possessed an innate ability to reveal things others desperately wanted to keep concealed, transforming you into a walking, breathing mirror that relentlessly reflected their shadows and hidden agendas back to them. This profound spiritual truth explains why you were consistently misunderstood, unfairly targeted, and incessantly discussed behind closed doors. It wasn't because you were inherently disruptive, difficult, or intentionally provocative. On the contrary, it was precisely because your authentic spirit, simply by existing, profoundly challenged their established comfort zones and the fragile illusions they had meticulously constructed. While they outwardly smiled and feigned camaraderie, they were covertly studying you with the intensity of a threat assessment, meticulously building strategies to undermine you, even as you genuinely believed you were cultivating meaningful relationships. They saw you not as a friend or an ally, but as an obstacle to be neutralized. Chapter 2. The Reprogramming Agenda, a War for Your Soul. Their ultimate objective transcended mere emotional or physical harm. That would have been far too straightforward, and frankly, beneath the true scope of their malevolent intent. What they truly desired, what they meticulously worked towards, was to fundamentally reprogram your entire sense of self. Their sinister aim was to utterly break your spirit, to systematically twist your perception of reality, and to implant so much self-doubt that you would incessantly question your own worth, your memories, your voice, and even the very fabric of your existence. The insidious hope was that you would be left a diminished, hollowed-out version of yourself, easily controllable and perpetually subservient to their unspoken narratives. This was not random cruelty, but a systematic psychological warfare, executed with chilling precision. It manifested in subtle, calculated tactics. A seemingly innocent, sarcastic comment today, followed by an agonizing period of passive-aggressive silence tomorrow. Then came the relentless barrage of guilt trips, the sudden and disorienting emotional withdrawal, and the insidious gaslighting meticulously designed to make you distrust your own thoughts and sanity. Their most potent weapon was the belief that if they could successfully convince you to doubt your inner voice, to question your intuition and discernment, you would effectively silence yourself without them needing to lift a single finger. The ultimate victory for them was not just to defeat you, but to compel you to participate in your own spiritual demise. Chapter 3. The Spectacle. They planned. Your destruction was always meant to be public theater, a grand, painful performance for an audience of their choosing. They weren't content with a quiet defeat, a private failure you could recover from. No, they craved your downfall to be overtly visible, widely talked about, and used as irrefutable evidence that you were never as special, as powerful, or as divinely appointed as you seemed. Your pain wasn't merely intended to satisfy their malevolent desires. It was meticulously designed to validate their skewed narrative about you, to prove their cynical assessments correct. They meticulously orchestrated elaborate scenarios, hoping to push you towards a public breakdown that would cement their version of reality. This included calculated strategies like forcing you into isolation, then twisting the narrative to blame you for being distant or anti-social. They manufactured crises, subtly poking at your deepest wounds, all designed to make you appear unstable, erratic, or even mentally unfit. Their goal was to simultaneously destroy your reputation and shatter your inner peace, leaving you exposed and vulnerable. They had their script ready, their false concern rehearsed, and their lines prepared for the moment they believed you would finally collapse. But heaven intercepted their performance. The dramatic, spectacular fall they so eagerly anticipated never materialized. Even in those moments when you stumbled, when the pressure seemed unbearable, what they expected to be a total breakdown miraculously transformed into a profound breakthrough. The version of you they thought they could easily manipulate, the one desperate for their approval, craving their acceptance, and willing to shrink to fit their expectations, evolved into someone entirely new, someone they could no longer control, predict, or diminish. Chapter 4. The network of handlers. Some of your closest, most trusted relationships weren't authentic connections born of mutual respect and genuine affection. Instead, they were strategic placements, meticulously positioned by a hidden, darker agenda. Certain individuals entered your life not with intentions to love, nurture, or truly support you, but with the insidious mandate to monitor and manage you. They came cleverly disguised as friends, loyal partners, or even cherished family members, but their true, covert purpose was surveillance and control. These spiritual handlers diligently studied your routines, observed your patterns, identified your vulnerabilities, and meticulously recorded your emotional responses. They paid close attention to how you process pain, who you confided in during moments of weakness, and what precisely triggered your deepest insecurities. Every instance of your vulnerability, every raw emotion you displayed, became valuable intelligence they would later exploit and weaponize against you. Whenever you attempted to grow, to elevate your consciousness, or to simply level up in life, they would subtly but effectively manufacture distractions, induce guilt, or ignite drama, all designed to pull you back down into the familiar, stagnant patterns they preferred. Crucially, their supposed support always came with invisible strings attached. They offered help that subtly fostered dependence, gave advice that implicitly encouraged you to remain small and limited, and provided a superficial comfort that never quite reached the depth needed for true healing. You weren't being genuinely loved or supported. You were being psychologically managed, a pawn in their larger spiritual game. Chapter 5. Breaking generational patterns. The profound opposition you faced didn't originate with you. It culminated with you. You were the chosen vessel to confront and dismantle a deeply entrenched generational cycle of dysfunction, secrecy, unresolved trauma, and insidious spiritual bondage. This dark inheritance had been running through your bloodline like a silent, debilitating disease, passing from one generation to the next. But unlike your ancestors, you, the bloodline disruptor, instinctively refused to look away or passively accept its grim reality. You were the first among your lineage to dare question what others had normalized, to challenge the unspoken rules that perpetuated suffering. You were the first to bravely speak the uncomfortable truths that previous generations were too afraid, too traumatized, or too unaware to voice. You were the pivotal point, the courageous soul who declared, "This ends with me." You didn't just break simple bad habits or personal shortcomings. You courageously shattered centuries of ingrained programming and boldly called out the deep-seated lies your family had internalized and normalized as their truth. This act of defiance, this profound awakening, made you incredibly dangerous, not merely to individuals, but to the very principalities and spiritual systems that had fed voraciously off your family's dysfunction for generations. Your awakening was, in essence, a profound act of spiritual rebellion against an established order. You weren't supposed to find your voice. You weren't supposed to break free from the cycles of pain and repetition. You were expected to passively repeat the same destructive patterns and, in turn, pass them on to the next unsuspecting generation. However, when you consciously chose healing over hiding, clarity over comfort, and purpose over pretense, you fundamentally disrupted a spiritual economy. This economy thrived on your family's suffering, secrecy, and silence. The very moment you stopped playing the assigned role, the elaborate systems that had operated unchallenged for so long began to crumble. You weren't just changing the trajectory of your own life. You were literally pulling the plug on a deep-seated darkness that had gone unchecked and unchallenged for generations, initiating a spiritual liberation for your entire lineage. Chapter 6. Divine Education Through Exposure. God, in His infinite wisdom and foresight, allowed you to witness evil's true, unmasked face. This wasn't a punitive measure, but a necessary, albeit painful, divine education. Anything less than this stark, raw exposure would not have been sufficient to break the powerful spell you were under, a spell woven from naive trust and inherited patterns. You needed to experience firsthand the calculated coldness and unapologetic malice of darkness, how it could sit at your very table, smile warmly in your face, and then, with chilling precision, stab you with the very knife of trust and vulnerability you yourself had extended. This profound, often excruciating experience was not punishment, but a crucial form of preparation. You had to feel the crushing weight of betrayal deep in your bones, learn to discern genuine connection from manipulative performance, and come to understand that those you trusted implicitly could use that very trust as a currency for your sabotage. You were forced to navigate environments where love was a well-rehearsed act masking manipulation, and where affection was conditional. This unparalleled level of pain became your spiritual training ground, providing a depth of discernment that no theoretical book or eloquent sermon could ever hope to impart. As a result of this rigorous, divine schooling, you now possess an invaluable spiritual radar. You no longer mistake superficial attention for genuine affection, nor do you confuse transactional access with unwavering loyalty. You've honed your ability to read energy far beyond mere words, instinctively recognizing the subtle dissonances. You've stopped making excuses for, or explaining away, glaring red flags because you have lived through the devastating consequences of ignoring them. Crucially, you no longer romanticize toxicity. You've bled from its insidious grip, and that visceral understanding has fortified you. You are no longer naive. You are, in the most profound and protective sense, wisely dangerous. Because once you've witnessed evil without its cunning mask, stripped bare of all pretense, it can never again seduce you or lure you back into its grasp. Chapter 7. The Power of Sacred Silence. Your periods of intense quietude were never a sign of weakness, defeat, or even mere confusion in the face of overwhelming odds. On the contrary, your silence was a divine strategy, a potent spiritual weapon in the arsenal of the Most High. While your adversaries whispered, plotted, and performed their dark theatrics, you were purposefully drawn into a sacred season, where words would have been a wasteful expenditure of precious energy. God intentionally pulled you into a deep, intensive period of spiritual preparation, even as your enemies foolishly assumed your quiet meant surrender, brokenness, or acceptance of their limitations. In that profound silence, you embarked on a transformative journey. You systematically shed false identities that had been imposed upon you, meticulously cut soul ties that had drained your essence, actively unlearned generational lies that had bound your lineage, and, crucially, downloaded divine instruction directly from the heavens. What appeared to the outside world as inactivity or paralysis was, in the spiritual realm, an intensive war room of reformation and recalibration. Your discernment rapidly leveled up. Your spiritual ears were trained to hear frequencies undetectable by human ears, and an immense power quietly built within you, like a precision spiritual weapon being meticulously loaded for its destined purpose. Your sustained silence, paradoxically, became their greatest frustration. It was a form of spiritual static, a clear signal that their manipulative tactics were no longer provoking the desired reactions. They couldn't drag you into their petty dramas, nor could they bait you into public breakdowns. Your pause was never paralysis. It was a strategic preparation for a monumental comeback they never saw coming, a divine elevation that will leave them utterly bewildered and silenced. If this message resonated with your soul, and unveiled truths you've always felt but couldn't articulate, then you're truly a chosen one. Don't walk this path alone. Like this video, share it with another anointed soul who needs to hear this, and join our channel membership to become part of a community that understands this spiritual journey. Your breakthrough is here, and your story is a testament to divine power.